Good evening. Welcome to the June meeting of the Niskayuna Zoning Board of Appeals. Mr. Kenny, will you call the roll, please?
Here.
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 Here. Here. The first matter on the agenda is a review of the minutes from, we have two packets of minutes from the April meeting and the May meeting. Let's take them in order. Is there any discussion on the April minutes? Having heard none, does anybody want to make a motion relative to the April minutes?
I'll make a motion.
A motion's been made. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
I assume that's a motion to approve the minutes.
Yes.
A motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes. Mr. Kenny, we call the roll. This is relative to the April minutes.
Abstain. Absent.
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Mr. Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Gentile,
Abstain.
You were here in April. You still abstaining?
Well, I was here.
You were here.
Apologies. Yes.
Mr. Antonikowski,
Yes.
Chairperson Hoke.
Yes. The minutes from April are approved. Is there any discussion on the May minutes? Is there anyone want to make a motion to approve the May
Motion to
minutes?
accept as read.
Okay, a motion's been made. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve. Mr. Kenny, we call the roll, please.
Mr. Latif,
Yes.
Mr. Dolman,
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco,
Abstain.
Mr. Daly,
Yes.
Mr. Gentile,
Yes.
Mr. Antonikowski,
Yes.
Chairperson Hoke.
Yes, Mr. Gentile, with respect to the May minutes, I don't believe you were present, so I assume you'll be abstaining that one. I think you got them mixed up. Yeah, so Mr. Gentile will be abstaining from the May minutes, but we do have sufficient members to approve those minutes. The next matter on the agenda, Mr. Kenny will call the first matter for this evening's agenda.
Appeal by Sandra Proiano for a variance from section 220-13 Schedule IC of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskayuna as it applies to the property at 156 Fieldstone Drive, Niskayuna, New York, located in the R2 medium density residential zoning district, to construct a deck partially within the side and rear yard setbacks. Section 220-13 Schedule IC requires a side yard setback of 15 feet and a rear yard setback of 20 feet. As proposed, the deck will be 3 feet from the side property line and 12 feet 6 inches from the rear property line. Therefore, both a 12-foot side yard setback variance and a 7-foot 6 inch rear yard setback variance is required. 20 notices were mailed, 0 responses.
The applicant, please come forward. And will you state your name and address for the record, please?
Certainly. Good evening. My name is Sandy Triano. And a few years ago, I purchased
I'm sorry, just your address real quick.
Oh, I'm sorry,
It's
150
obvious, but
156 Fieldstone Drive in
thank you.
Niskayuna.
Okay, but before you say anything, Laura, can you please pull the image up? So we're gonna pull the image up from your application packet.
And would you talk into the mic? There you go.
We can talk loud here.
I usually have a loud voice, but
You
I'm
wanna-
trying to be.
No, amplify, by all means, amplify. Do you have the actual image though? I'm looking for the actual picture. Please. Yeah, that's the one I was looking for. Okay, Mr. Triano, before you, and I'll give you an opportunity to speak. I just want to
Certainly.
clarify the issues. That is the footprint of the deck that you're looking to have. Correct. And I believe your application said that the stone patio that you have there that's existing, that is in disrepair.
It is.
It
It
looks
is.
pretty good in that photograph.
Well, with the ground settling, it's all uneven.
Okay.
It's hard to tell in that photo.
Let me just ask you some questions about behind the where you proposing the patio that you're going to need the variance. Is there a fence behind you?
There is.
Okay, and then behind that fence,
It-
there are larger parcels, correct?
There is. It's single family home.
Okay. And there's a pool back there, I believe.
There is.
Okay. and there's a significant amount of distance between where your proposed deck would be and where the next home is behind you, correct?
Where the proposed deck and
The home
the
behind
home.
you.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And have you spoken to that homeowner about your deck?
I have not.
Okay. And what kind of fence do they have separating?
It's a white vinyl fence.
Okay. Do you believe that homeowner is going to be able to see your deck?
No, they won't be able to have any view. It's a closed deck. It's a
Okay.
closed, fence.
Okay. And then you're proposing to have your deck, the fence is going to remain? The fence in that image is going to stay up?
No, so, you'll see in that photo, there's the steps. There's steps there. So the vinyl fence will be removed and there will be tall, 3 tall, landscape shrubs.
Okay. And have you talked to that neighbor relative to? Well, let me just ask you, have you discussed the deck with either of your side neighbors?
So yes,
Okay, and have they voiced any concerns about the deck?
no,
Okay. All right, I think that's all of my questions. I'm gonna let some of the other members of the
Sure.
board ask
Mhm.
you questions, if there are any.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one very quick question.
Yes,
Ma'am, I just want to understand, you're proposing that the deck that you put in is on the exact same footprint as the existing patio?
it's a little bit larger.
it was the dominance, the
Yeah.
image, if you see the outline.
Oh, I thought that was the property line. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Triano, let me just ask you, why do you need such a large deck there? Why can't we make it a little smaller?
Well, I know that that's a picture of when I purchased the townhouse 2 years ago, and that was the photo that was on the listing. So it's rather small. I really would like something a little larger.
Okay, and what types of things do you believe that you'll be enabled to do with the larger deck that you can't do now?
Well, I'd like to put a patio table with chairs, and a grill, and then have a seating area. So the photo there just shows a seating area.
Okay. Are there any other questions?
Yes, Ms. Triano. I've got a few questions for you. The neighbor to the back where the fence is,
Mhm.
and you said they have a pool.
Mhm.
Is their pool higher or lower than your property?
Um,
If the fence were there, would you be looking down towards the pool?
So the
or would it
property
be-
does, my backyard does elevate, so the fence is elevated slightly.
Okay,
And so, yes, to
But-
answer your question.
their backyard,
Mhm.
if you were standing in their backyard, would you be looking uphill at their house or downhill?
So if
at
you were
their house?
standing in their backyard, my patio is lower. My patio would be lower if you were standing in their backyard.
Are there any underground structures in your backyard that you are aware of?
Not that I'm aware of.
Just for clarification, Laura, in terms of the application, the deck distance from property lines, is that to the deck proper or does it include stairs?
It's to the deck proper. As long as the stairs are a certain like smallness, like an eave, they can get a little closer. Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Okay, having heard none, Ms. Triano, why don't you have a seat here? I'm going to ask if there's any members of the public that wish to be heard relative to your
Certainly.
application.
Thank you.
Are there any members of the public that wish to be heard for or against this application? No? Okay, do you want to go, just put that on the record? You just want to step up, state your name and address for the record, and state your position?
Steve Muskie, 154 Fieldstone Drive. We're for her deck being built. I'd just like to say too, that picture makes it look a lot bigger than it actually is. And it's a wet area, so that's a reason the deck is needed as well, because water just flows through there.
And just for the record, Mr. Muskie, if looking at that photograph, your house is to the right or the left of?
Yeah, on the other side of the shrubs, you can see the air conditioning and the.
So you're to the right, correct?
Yep.
All right. Anything else you have to offer?
No,
Any members of the board that have any questions for Mr. Muskie? Nope. Thank you,
thank
sir.
you.
Mr. Triano, if you want to step back, is there anybody else in the audience that wishes to be heard for or against the application? Having heard none, is there anybody on the board that wishes to make a motion relative to this application?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna make a motion to approve this application. I think Ms. Triano has demonstrated what she needs this deck for, and we had a neighbor speak up on her behalf, and we didn't know that this is a little wetland, so it makes more sense to expand the deck from 14 by 14 to 16 by 25. I don't think this could be achieved any other way. It's not going to cause any undesirable change to the neighbor. Actually, it looks like it's going to enhance the look in the backyard to the neighbors. Whether the request will have adverse physical environment, it's not going to have any adverse to the environment. It's going to be actually a benefit to the environment. Is the alleged difficulty is self-created? It is, but again, under the circumstances and the unique property that she has, for all these reasons, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve it.
And just for the record, I assume that your application or your motion is relative to both variance requests.
Yes, to both the 3 feet and the 12.
Thank you, sir. A motion's been made. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that for all the reasons stated.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Kenny, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Latif?
Yes.
Mr. Dolman?
Yes, and I just would like to add that I do believe that this is a substantial variance request. However, on the balance, I vote yes to approve it.
Ms. Pacheco?
I vote yes, and I'll also note that the property is unique in a special way. This is a townhome property, so on the side where the shrubs are and where the neighbor has spoken up, that is the property line. So you do not have a whole lot of choices there. So on the balance of it, I vote yes.
Mr. Daly?
Yes, for all those reasons stated.
Mr. Gentile?
Gonna vote yes, and I'll have to study up on how everything is that close to the property line to begin with.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Chairperson Hoke?
Yes, for the reasons stated. Thank you, ma'am. Your application's been approved. Your variance has been granted. You can follow up with Laura tomorrow and she'll let you know what else, other steps you have to take.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. The next matter on the agenda is somewhat unique from our perspective in that there are two separate sets of variance requests that came in at separate times. And that's why there's two separate matters on the agenda for this evening. However, it's my understanding that certain members of the public submitted letters and it's unclear as to which application those letters are directed towards, or which variances those letters are directed for. So as a result, we're going to read both matters. It's the same applicant simultaneously, and then we'll read the letters after that. Okay.
Appeal by Vishal Prasad for a variance from section 220-53A and B and section 220-13 Schedule IC of the and section 220-25B1A of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskuna as it applies to the property at 1159 Palmer Ave, Niskuna, New York, located in the R2 medium density residential zoning district, to maintain a 16-foot by 22-foot addition, a 6-foot high fence, and a 12-foot by 22-foot deck, exceeding the change in usable floor area allowed partially within the side yard setback, and the fence exceeds the height limit allowed in the side yard. Section 220-53A states a non-conforming building may be structurally altered as long as the cumulative alterations do not add more than 10% of the usable floor area of said building or structure as it existed on July 1, 1971, and when a valid zoning and building permit has been obtained. Such alterations shall not tend to increase the inherent nuisance, nor shall such alterations violate any provisions of the chapter regarding yards, lot area, or lot coverage for the district in which it was situated, or increase any existing violation of such provision. As constructed, there is 18% additional usable floor area. Therefore, an 8% usable floor area variance is required. Section 220-53B allows an addition to a non-conforming residential structure, which brings the addition into a non-conforming side or rear yard no nearer to the side or rear property line than the existing structure and no nearer than half the distance specified in a particular residential zoning district. Section 220-13 Schedule IC requires a side yard setback of 15 feet. The existing house is 3 feet from the sideline. Therefore, 7 foot 6 inch becomes the minimum required side setback. As constructed, the addition and deck are 3 feet from the side property line. Therefore, a 4 foot 6 inch side yard setback variance is required for both. Section 220-25B1A permits the maximum height for fences located in the front and side yards to be 4 feet. As constructed, a 6 foot high fence is located in the side yard. Therefore, a 2 foot fence height variance is required. The second part, appeal by Vishal Prasad for a variance from section 220-18B3B and section 220-13 Schedule IC of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskuna as it applies to the property 1159 Palmer Ave, Niskuna, New York, located in the R2 medium density residential zoning district, to maintain a 24-foot by 48-foot carport partially within the side and rear yard setbacks and exceeding the lot coverage allowed. Section 220-18B3B states that the required side and rear yard dimensions for major accessory structures shall be the same as applies to the principal building. Major accessory structures are defined as detached accessory buildings or other structures in excess of 120 square feet. The carport at 1,152 square feet is a major accessory structure. Section 220-13 Schedule IC requires a 15-foot minimum, 15-foot side yard setback and a 20-foot rear yard setback. As constructed, the carport is 3 feet from the side property line and 18 feet from the rear property line. Therefore, both a 12-foot side yard setback variance and a 2-foot rear yard setback variance are required. Section 220-13 Schedule IC also requires a 30% maximum coverage of all structures on a lot. The actual lot size is 8,000 square feet, making 2,400 square feet the maximum lot coverage of all structures. As constructed, the actual lot coverage of all structures is 2,520 square feet or 32%. Therefore, a variance for 120 square feet or 2% of lot coverage is required. 15 notices were mailed, 3 responses.
To whom it may concern. Hello, I would like to voice some concerns regarding the renovation of the property next door to me at 1159 Palmer Ave. First of all, I will say that the family that bought the house is lovely and they are sweet people. I have no problem with them personally. I do have some safety concerns. First of all, there were no inspections done and it is not clear whether the electric work was done properly. Seeing as the home is very close to mine, I fear if there were a fire, my house could also go up in flames. I have an issue with the fence. Oh, I also have an issue with the fence that extends along my driveway. It extends so far that I have trouble pulling into my driveway. Pulling out of my driveway is also a concern because I do not have clear sight to see whether someone is coming on the road or sidewalk behind me, and that is dangerous. When the work was being done on the house, the workers were throwing nails and roofing material onto my driveway. When I asked them not to do so, they continued but said, "We will pick them up," which they did not pick them all up. Seeing as they did not have much care for putting in the effort to do things correctly, I am not sure the building was done to code. I appreciate your time in the matter. Thank you. Sincerely, Amy Walthers. It's no address. I am going to try to do this. Some of these letters have pictures, which we don't get a whole lot, but I will do my best. This is from Kim Russ, June 16th, 2025. Niskuna Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, June 18th, 2025, regarding variances for 1159 Palmer Ave. To whom it may concern, the home next door to our property at 1139 Palmer Ave was purchased in November of 2023. The home underwent renovation from shortly after the purchase until September 2024, when the current occupants moved in. During the renovations, the home was not occupied. Since September 2024, a deck has been added onto the home and a large carport has been constructed in the backyard. During the renovation, several calls were made from residents on Palmer Ave to the town, expressing concern about the lack of permits and inspections on the work being completed. Stop work orders were posted on the front of the home, but those orders were removed by the contractor and the work proceeded uninterrupted. Eventually, the town failed to answer or return phone calls from neighboring residents and work continued. While we as neighbors do not know the full extent of the work completed, we know the 3-season porch on the front of the home was enclosed, a kitchen was added onto the back of the house, and a deck was added onto the back of the kitchen. As far as we know, none of this work was permitted or inspected. When we approached the person in charge of the work to inquire about permits and inspections, he told us, "I am the owner and I can do what I want." We later learned that person was not the homeowner. Also, during the renovations, all the grass, trees, and bushes on the entire property were removed. The entire property is now paved with concrete and surrounded by a tall fence. The concrete is not listed as a variance in the zoning letter we received, but we request the zoning board dedicate time to consider the issue as it has a significant impact on our property. Our concerns about the changes and renovations to 1159 Palmer Ave. 1, while we realize our neighborhood is not part of a homeowners association and neighbors will make aesthetic choices we do not always appreciate, the significant number of changes to this 100-plus-year-old home are not in keeping with the neighborhood. The home and property now have a very industrial look and feel. The front lawn has been replaced with AstroTurf. The backyard is a concrete parking lot for up to a dozen vehicles, including box trucks and dump trucks. And the incredible amount of LED lights installed on the outside of the property creates significant light pollution. Palmer Ave already has streetlights to illuminate the sidewalk, so the amount of overpowering lights on this property is unnecessary. Safety, 2. Safety of the uninspected work to both the occupants and surrounding homes, both structural and electrical. 3, the tall fence surrounding the property, particularly the section at the end of the driveway, impedes our clear view of the street and sidewalk when backing our cars out on the driveway. Our street has heavy pedestrian traffic with Stewart's at one end of the street, Van Antwerp Middle School at the other end of the street, and Hillside Elementary School around the corner. We also have more vehicle traffic than parallel streets because Palmer Ave has a traffic light at Union Street, whereas Cornelius Avenue, Troy Place, Van Antwerp Road, and Regent Street do not have traffic signals at Union Street, thereby making Palmer Ave a more ideal route for making left-hand turns onto Union Street. Further, we receive more emergency vehicle traffic on Palmer Ave, again due to the presence of a traffic signal. Therefore, the presence of the fence down near the street significantly increases the chances of vehicle or pedestrian collision. The structural integrity, size, and placement of the deck and large carport are concerning. Should any of those structures fall, they will likely fall on the fence, the driveway, and/or garage and/or home at 1169 Palmer Ave. The homes at 1159 Palmer Ave and 1169 Palmer Ave are separated by a narrow driveway barely wide enough for a small sedan to pass through. While not listed on the zoning letter, 5. While not listed on the zoning letter we received, the concrete pavement of the entire property at 1159 Palmer Ave has already had a direct negative impact on our property. The large and sudden loss of all permeable surfaces has resulted in standing water in our backyard and driveway after every rainfall and snow melt since the concrete was installed. We have owned and occupied our home at 1139 Palmer Ave since October 5th, 2006. We have lived here during the ice storm of 2008, Superstorm Sandy, Hurricane Irene, and several lesser but still significant rain and snowstorms in these 19 years. Our property has never had standing water until the neighboring yard was paved. We realize this has been a particularly wet spring. However, the concrete and lack of drain in said concrete has led to significant downstream onto our property. In some places, the concrete is so high, there is a 12-inch vertical drop between the backyard at 1159 Palmer Ave and 1139 Palmer Ave. Since the concrete work was completed close to the end of the renovations, the town has already been made aware on several occasions over a time span of nearly a year of neighbors' concerns regarding the work. Please provide a copy of the approved drainage plan in place before this concrete work began. When considering our concerns, please see the enclosed photos. Thank you for your time and attention to this matter. I'm just gonna read the bottoms of the photos and scroll through them. They will be made part of the permanent record. Fence, pavement, AstroTurf, and box truck at 1159 Palmer Ave. Photo taken from 1139 Palmer Ave. Oops. Pavement, fence, parking, carport, deck at 1159 Palmer Ave from 1139 Palmer Ave. Pavement, fence, parking, carport at 1159 Palmer Ave from 1139 Palmer Ave. Pavement, AstroTurf at 1159 Palmer Ave from 1139 Palmer Ave pictured on left. Vertical drop between the concrete at 1159 Palmer Ave's backyard and 1139 Palmer Ave's backyard is over 10 inches. The concrete slightly exceeds the height of the wooden board in this photo. Standing water in backyard and driveway of 1139 Palmer Ave, June 11th, 2025. Standing water in backyard and driveway of 1139 Palmer Ave. Standing water on far side of backyard 1139 Palmer Ave, closer to 1129 Palmer Ave versus 1159 Palmer Ave. Standing water in backyard of 1139 Palmer Ave. Standing water in backyard and driveway 1139 Palmer Ave. View from back door of 1139 Palmer Ave, looking towards 1159 Palmer Ave at night. No exterior lights were on at 1139 Palmer Ave when this photo was taken. The light on the near side of the fence is being reflected off the house at 1139 Palmer Ave back onto the fence between the properties. Photo was taken at 9:12 p.m. on June 14th, 2025. 1159 Palmer Ave at night. Photo taken September 14th, 2024 at 8:12 p.m. Note, fence installation between 1159 Palmer Ave and 1139 Palmer Ave had not been completed at the time this photo was taken, but the yellow caution tape pictured here shows where the fence was eventually installed. The wooden pole in the foreground is that of a working streetlight maintained by the town of Niskayuna. 1159 Palmer Ave. Photo taken on September 14th, 2024 at 8:12 p.m. The wooden pole in the foreground is that of a working streetlight. At the time this photo was taken, another picket fence had yet been installed between 1159 Palmer and 1139 Palmer, but it was installed soon afterward. The fence ends at the sidewalk on both sides of the property. A motorist backing out of 1139 Palmer Ave needs to see through 3 picket fences to check for oncoming cars and pedestrians. Oops. View from backyard of 1187 Palmer Ave, 3 lots away from 1159 Palmer Ave. Note the only exterior lights on at 1185 Palmer Ave when this photo was taken were hanging lights from the pergola pictured. No exterior lights were on at 1169 Palmer Ave. the property between 1187 and 1159 Palmer Ave at the time this photo was taken. Photo was taken at 10:31 p.m. June 14th, 2025. View from front yard driveway of 1139 Palmer Ave looking toward the Plaza, Grand Boulevard, and Van Antwerp Middle School. A motorist backing out of 139 Palmer Ave needs to see through 3 picket fences to check for oncoming cars, pedestrians, dogs on leashes, etc. June 16th, 2025. And that is the last one of that one. And I'm going to switch over to this one. Okay. To whom it may concern, I am writing to formally submit my comments and objections regarding the modifications made to the property at 1159 Palmer Ave. Unfortunately, I am unable to attend the meeting in person, but I ask that the following points be considered in my absence. Lack of enforcement of stop work orders. Stop work orders were issued but knowingly not enforced by the town for over a year. I personally visited Town Hall in early July of last year to report daily ongoing construction. Despite leaving multiple messages, I received no follow-up or return calls from the inspector. Improperly installed fencing. Fencing was installed without a land survey, and it encroaches on the narrow driveway shared with 1169 Palmer Ave. The fence restricts access to the neighboring property and reduces safe visibility for vehicles exiting the driveway. Installation appears to violate code and was completed without proper oversight. Uninspected electrical renovations. The interior of the home was completely gutted and renovated, including electrical work. There is no record of any approved electrical inspections. This poses a serious fire hazard, especially considering the proximity to neighboring homes, including my nephew's residence on one side and a family with young children on the other. Non-compliant structural additions. A rear addition exceeds the 10% allowable usable floor area and lacks code-compliant structural support per observations from a local contractor. A front addition, formerly a screened porch, was also enclosed and is not accounted for in the town's communication. This likely increases the overage beyond the 8% stated. These additions were constructed despite posted stop work orders and without appropriate permits or inspections. Disruption to historic streetscape. The front addition extends further than the neighboring porches, disrupting the historical alignment and aesthetics of Palmer Ave. The new exterior design does not reflect the character of Old Niskayuna, a neighborhood of homes over 100 years old. Removal of natural landscape and drainage issues. Several large trees were removed and replaced with ungraded concrete covering nearly the entire yard. No drainage system was installed to manage runoff, leading to standing water and drainage issues on adjacent properties. This may negatively affect neighboring property values. Unpermitted pavilion carport structure. A pavilion carport structure was constructed without a permit and while a stop work order was posted. No land survey was conducted to verify proper setbacks from the property line. When a stop work order was posted, the homeowner removed it and continued construction. Light pollution. The homeowner installed excessively bright exterior lights, which illuminate surrounding homes well beyond their property. While the town may not currently regulate light pollution, I encourage the adoption of ordinances addressing this concern. Lack of town oversight and consequences. I have communicated my concerns for nearly a year with little to no response or action from the town. The ongoing disregard for regulations and lack of enforcement sets a troubling precedent for future property developments in our neighborhood. I would like to express that I find this aspect of the entire situation the most concerning, as the town was fully aware of the proceedings of construction during active stop work orders and did not engage in enforcement prior to these projects being completed. This has left the neighbors of this property left without resolution and the homeowner of 1159 facing major expenses and further construction. Formal objection. If neighbor approval within 100 feet is required, please consider this letter my formal objection. The several of the modifications to 1159 Palmer Ave are unpermitted and almost all are inconsistent with the historic character of our neighborhood and resemble a commercial structure more than a residential home. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Jolyn Gagnon, 1187 Palmer Ave. And then also included pictures. Please note there are no filters on these photos, and that there is a street light in the front of 1159, making this use of lighting excessive and visually offensive. Please also consider the amount of unpermitted electrical wiring required for these lights. Is this fencing a safe enough distance from this hydrant? I'm not sure what the regulations for this are, but I don't know if any other property in Niskuna has a front yard fence. I can't actually see if there's. Yeah, okay, it's just fence, sorry. It looks more like a commercial or industrial lot than a property in Old Niskayuna. Note the close proximity of 1159 to 1169, making the lack of electrical inspection very concerning. Note how close the fencing is to 1169's driveway. This wasn't permitted or surveyed to ensure that this fence is on their property, and permission was not requested or granted from the owner of 1169. Taken from 1139 where there are no lights on, and what you're seeing on their fence side is the reflection of 1159's lighting off of 1139 siding. Taken from 1187, 3 lots over, where only solar garden lights are on. This shows how far the extreme and disruptive lighting from 1159 travels. And that's the end of the pictures.
Are there any other letters? Okay. Is Prasad here? Sir, why don't you come forward? Before we let you speak and start with your application, Laura, can you please just fill in the board relative to the enforcement activities relative to this property?
Yes, so in the spring, I'd say, of 2024, the town received a complaint of the addition going up and issued a stop work order and a certified mail letting that the addition needed to get a building permit. The applicant did come in and submit a partial building permit, but it was lacking the information that the building inspector needed. So he sent a couple subsequent notes that the information still needed to be provided from the town. And then later on in 2024, we got complaints of the deck and the fencing going up without a building permit. So those were then cited with a stop work order and a certified letter that none of the things on the property had permits. Even if a partial permit had been submitted for the addition, it had never been issued. So the deck and the addition and the fence were all cited for work without permit going into 2025. And then in early 2025, we received the complaint about the carport. And so that's why there's a difference in the citation, because we were working through the addition, deck, and fencing, and then the carport came in 2025 as a separate enforcement action that the building inspector was looking at. That was also put up without permit, issued a stop work order, posted certified mail, and finally received building permits for all of the 4 things that were denied and brought to the zoning board.
So when were the building permits finally issued?
Well, they're not issued. We received them, I think, all around the same time.
What were the applications, the formal applications that, my understanding procedurally is that he would have to have applications submitted before he could apply for the variances, correct?
Yeah, so they came in at slightly different times. One came in May. No, they both came in May. That can't be right. Oh no, okay. So the applications for the older structures did come in I'm sorry, I don't actually really have that information. Our folder can't be correct on that.
Okay, but as of this point, all the applications have been submitted, the fees have been paid.
No, they don't get paid. So, so early June of 2024 for the addition, that was the original citation, but that one wasn't complete. That might be why our dates are a little bit messed up. The building inspectors need to get enough information to deny them, but he did finally get enough information to deny them around May. And then the applicant had 60 days to appeal once the denial has gone out, and he chose to appeal. And he appealed both of the denials at the same meeting.
Okay, what is the town's understanding of the scope of the work that's been completed at the project, at the property relative to these structures that are referenced this evening?
Our understanding is that all of them are built in the field.
Okay.
They were all built without permits. Nothing was approved or issued by our department. They were all given stop work orders at various stages during the construction. But currently, as the structures and the applicant stands before you, they are all built.
Okay, so what you're indicating is from the town's perspective, after stop work orders were issued, the construction continued until completion from the applicant's perspective.
Yes, I did talk to the building inspector. He's not completely sure when the carport went up because he wasn't invited into the backyard, but.
All right, thank you. Sir, can you state your name and address for the record?
My name is Vishal Prasad, 1159 Palmer Avenue.
Okay, Mr.
Mosquito.
Prasad. Before you start tonight, I'd just like to make clear there were a lot of issues raised in the letters that were submitted.
Yes.
Some are within the jurisdiction of this board and some are not within the jurisdiction of this board. Okay. We have to address the issues that you're applying for the variances tonight. The
Yes.
enforcement, one of the factors in your application, you fill out the applications, you know that one of the factors that we have to consider is whether this was a self-created hardship. Okay. Generally, when we're weighing the factors, balancing the 5 factors that are included in the application, that's the standard that we're going to be applying. With respect to a self-created hardship, we usually say that's not determinative of the application because every variance to a certain extent is a self-created hardship in the sense that you wouldn't have to necessarily usually request the variance in the first place. You just wouldn't build the structure. In your case, because all the structures are built in violation of the code, and it seems to me with your notice, because there were stop work orders issued, I'll let you speak in a second. That would seem to be that the self-created hardship issue was going to be very hard for you to overcome. Okay, that's still not necessarily determinative. That's just my viewpoint. I'm just one member of this board. I'm just starting off with that. Okay, why don't you tell us before we go into each specific issue, why you built without a permit and why you continued to build even after you were issued the stop work orders? Can you give us any kind of insights into that
Yes.
from your perspective?
Okay. Last August, I moved from Brooklyn to up here to Niskayuna with my family. Apparently, I wasn't aware of whatever's going on with the property and with the contractor. The contractor, every time I talked to him, he said, yes, you have everything under control. He was doing his own thing here. I only used to get to come up on the weekends because of my business and stuff in Brooklyn. I come up on weekends, I come and see, and I left. So whatever permit he pulled, I asked him, did you pull permit? He said, yes, he have everything under control. Apparently, when I sit and spoke to Mr. Thomas, then is when he told me exactly what's going on. And when I finally moved up, then I went to meet Mr. Thomas, and we sit down back and forth, and I give him the whatever work was done there. I give him the dimension, whatever scope he needed to get things sorted out. For the, I heard you, Laura mentioned about the concrete for the yard. When I asked the contractor, he said that was okay. Everything from that except the carport, I started building the carport myself. The carport was completed, Then there was a work sub order, and then I think the next few days, I went in and talked to Mr. Thomas, and then is when he told me I need a permit for the carport. I didn't know I needed a permit for the carport because it was away from the house.
Sir, you relocated from Brooklyn?
Yes,
Did you ever do any improvements on property in Brooklyn?
just with company. I work with companies.
What kind of companies do you work with?
I used to work with BG Realty.
Okay, so you're in
Yeah.
real estate yourself?
Yes.
So you're familiar with the permitting process, the building permit
No.
process?
I never
No.
pull permits and stuff. Yes.
You never pulled one yourself, but you knew
Yes.
that you needed permits, correct?
Yes.
Okay, did you ever ask to see any of the permits that your contractor pulled for this
Mm,
project up here in New York?
no.
All right. and
He said
you know-
every time I asked him for the permit and stuff, he said he have everything under control.
Okay. Why don't we address these variance requests one
Yeah.
by one, just to make sense of them in order here? Yeah, well, I'm sorry. you
The
had
the,
something
the
else?
fence the fence in front. I'll take it on. I'll go. down
Okay,
around.
well, that was gonna be the first issue I was
Yeah.
gonna address.
Yes.
Okay, so with respect to your request for a variance for the fence, you're
That's
gonna
it.
you're gonna withdraw that request
Yes, I'll-
because you're gonna
I'll
be
take it.
removing the fence,
Yeah.
correct?
Remove or cut it down.
Well, till it's in compliance with the code, which I believe would be a 4-foot fence. at that
4 foot fence. Okay, so I'll take it on to. I could take it on to 4 foot.
Is that correct, Laura? He can have it where it is currently in the front yard as long as it's 4 feet.
He can, yes, you can have a fence as long as it's in the front yard. I will have to double check,
Okay.
just from the pictures, how close it is to the fire hydrant. You're gonna have to make sure
Okay.
that it's not on town property, because
Okay.
it looks like it may go beyond your property lines, and that would not be allowed.
Okay, but you're gonna withdraw and you're gonna install it in compliance with the code.
Yes,
Whatever
yes.
whatever those requirements are,
Yes.
you're gonna, that's what
Yes.
that is. So we don't have to address that issue tonight.
I'll take care of it. Yes.
Okay, let's go to the next issue that you were certainly involved in, which is the carport.
Yes.
You constructed that yourself,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
I had a question for Laura relative to the carport and specifically section 2020-13 indicating that there was a 2% overage in the lot coverage as a result of the structure. Does that take into consideration the additions that were placed on the property, or is that without the additions?
That is with the additions. It's partly why the denials go in order.
Okay, so that is with the additions. Okay. Sir, how many people reside at the property?
5 and 7 on weekends because I have additional family coming up on every weekend.
All right, how many of them drive?
Drive. I have 4 drivers.
4 drivers.
Yes.
Okay, 4 drivers all the time, or just 4 drivers during
2
the?
drivers daily and 2 extras on a weekend.
Okay. And how many, it looks like you have multiple, your carport can accommodate
4 cars.
4 vehicles?
Yes.
Okay. And that's in addition to, it looks like you put concrete next to the property, so you can accommodate, what, an additional, 8 vehicles there in addition to the 4 vehicles in the carport?
My original was just to have 4 vehicles there. All the rest will be moved. I'm waiting on one of my property to finish,
Okay.
and then I'll move the rest.
Why did you have a box truck in the property?
Oh, that box truck I used to move my my materials and stuff. Yes.
What kind of real estate are you in?
I just buy, fix, and do rentals.
So you flip properties?
Not flip in Florida, not here.
Oh, so you flip properties?
Yes.
Okay. You have to apply for permits in Florida?
Permits in Florida. I buy property that I have to do minimum work, just painting, and that's it. Yeah, no crazy work. I don't have the manpower over there.
Why do you need the carport on the property?
Carport to park. I have some high-end vehicles I put there.
What are the high-end vehicles that you put there?
I have a 1995 Toyota Supra. I have a 2024 Toyota Sequoia. I have a special edition 1995 Toyota Crown. and my 2023 Toyota Tundra.
So I think what I'm looking at when I'm looking at your application is the cumulative effect
Mhm.
of all the, all the additions that you're making simultaneously. So it's not the carport in isolation. We're looking at that now, but it takes up a substantial amount of the property and certainly changes the character of the surrounding properties as well.
Okay, the addition that at the back of the house used to be a deck. So that deck is now my kitchen, and then I add the deck at the back.
I understand with
Yes.
respect to the kitchen and the deck, that correct me if I'm wrong, but the footprint of the kitchen approximates the deck that was originally on the property.
Yes.
And that does not encroach any further on the side yard setback, right? It runs directly along the side of
Yes,
the house.
along the building, yes.
So the 3-foot setback for the building is consistent with the setback for the kitchen addition, and I assume that the deck runs.
Yes,
Directly
everything's straight in line. Yeah, that's the reason why I did it, yeah.
All right. I am going to open up. I would anticipate there's going to be additional questions for you.
Yeah.
I'm going to open it up to other members of the board that have questions. Ms. Pacheco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a few questions for you. Looking at the plans that have been submitted and hearing the submitted letters from your neighbors, certainly there are concerns about the several factors of the environment.
Yes.
Okay, and it seems to be caused by the placement of concrete in your yard, which I believe, does it cover the entire backyard?
Yes,
So there's no grass whatsoever?
no grass. Only there's 2 feet away from the fence around. Right around, there's 2 feet.
On the
Yeah.
right-hand side?
Right
next-
around, the whole property.
There's a little bit of grass?
Yes, yes.
So is it grass or is it
Stone. Just
stone?
yes,
Okay, so there's
yes.
nothing there to mow,
Um,
correct?
The reason why we have it like that, my kids is very, very afraid of insect. And when we decided to move, all this stuff, I asked the contractor, he said it's okay. A few days ago, my daughter was out there and a small grasshopper just go on her and it was crazy. So that's the reason why we asked if we could use those cements and concrete and stuff there.
Did the contractor talk to you about drainage at all?
No.
What happens when it rains?
When it rains, I don't see any standing water, but now that I saw that it's affecting my neighbors, and now I feel bad about the whole situation. Because I never knew that there was a problem. If I knew there was a problem, I would address it right away. For example, one day, someone put a note in my mailbox that the light is too bright. Since then, I rarely have on the lights. I try to keep it dark. Even right now, in the night, I rarely have on my fence light because it's too bright. They said it's too bright, so I said, I don't want no trouble. I don't want no, I don't like to hurt my neighbors. Yes.
Okay, thank you for addressing. That's part of the environment that I'm concerned about, certainly, that the neighbors have written about, because light pollution can be an issue for environment. We've spoken about the water. Can you describe to me the shedding of water off of the additions? Where does that water go? Off of the roofs? Where does it head?
The roof water addition, it hits direct at the back of the building, like right where the 22 is at the back there. Everything is hit at the back. Yeah.
Okay, so is that landing on concrete?
Concrete, yes.
And then where does it go?
Just flow on the ground. If I may
Unt-
go up here.
Until what point? Does it go all the way
Straight to the back, yes.
to the back of the
Yes, to the back,
property?
yes.
So I don't believe we heard anything from neighbors behind you, but I believe you have neighbors behind you. Is their property higher or lower than yours if you looked over the fence that you have in the back?
Apparently, it should be a little lower because the way how my property is, it have a slope to go down in the back.
Okay, do you think it's possible that the water that drains off the roof across the concrete might be affecting them as well? Possibly.
Possibly, yes.
Okay. I'm going to stop there for now and give my colleagues a chance to speak.
Laura, let me just, for clarification purposes, with respect to the water mitigation, theoretically, if the variances were granted, would there be requirements through the building process to install water mitigation systems into this? And or is it, I assume that you can, because there's no variance requested for it, put concrete over your entire property?
So our drainage code basically says typically if you were going to put in a ground level patio concrete, you could do that as long as it doesn't affect any neighboring drainage or make a drainage situation worse. Our code basically says if you're going to change topography or drainage significantly or reasonably, you need a building permit for that. So because this is a very large amount of concrete, it would require a building permit. It hasn't gotten to that process because of the denials. If it were to get to that process, it would be required to undergo an engineering review, and they would have to prove that they're not making drainage worse in order for us to issue a permit for you to put concrete through your entire backyard.
Okay, and I'm just looking for clarification that the issue of the concrete isn't directly before the board this evening, correct?
Not directly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I was more concerned about the environmental effects. in terms of
I
the-
appreciate the concerns. I just wanted clarification just to, if the members of the board are unsatisfied with the existence of the concrete, that in and of itself at this point in time wouldn't necessarily be a basis to deny the variance in and of itself. Okay, that's all I was trying to clarify.
Can I add, now that you guys saying something, I'm trying to remember, can I add gutters on the whole structure of the building and try to channel the water somewhere like for one place instead of having it all
Yeah.
over?
Sir, I think those are questions that you're gonna have to talk to the building code,
Okay.
building department about if the matter proceeds.
Okay,
Relative to that. I can tell you that I am, from my perspective, I'm looking at this as if these structures aren't built, okay? And I'm saying if it wasn't built and you came in here and you wanted to build them, to what extent would would I consider the variances based upon that? Okay? The fact that you build them without a building permit, without requesting the variances at the outset, that's between you and your contractor, really. Okay? Any other questions for members of the board?
I have a further question, but it's more of a clarification. I know, Chairman, you spoke about the front fence being removed from the application
yes.
as it stands, but Laura, as this is part of item A, are we still talking about the additional usable floor area? Is that still requiring a variance?
Yes, that would still require the variance. The usable floor area is tied directly to the main structure, and that includes the addition. And that is regardless of any of the accessory structures. The total lot coverage includes the addition to the main structure, the deck, and the carport. I forgot to mention there was also I don't really know what you call it, like a gazebo patio type structure that the applicant, I believe, has since taken down that was also initially cited. There was a structure behind the carport originally, but
Yeah, it was a gazebo, yes.
It's
That'll be
gone.
mo- Yeah,
It's
going,
gone.
yeah.
It's going or it's gone?
Roughly within 2 weeks, it's gone, yeah.
Okay,
Because
so
where you gotta go to, they wasn't ready to move it as yet.
there's also a structure on there now that was promised to be removed
Oh,
and
yeah.
has yet to be removed.
Mr. Prasad, I'm sorry. Let me just ask you this. If we were to look at your application, assuming that none of the structures were built, okay, and you were coming for variances, tell me what would be the most important variance that you'd be looking for? Like you can only keep one of the structures. What would be the structure you'd be looking for? Between the kitchen, the deck, and the carport, what would be the most important for you to keep?
The kitchen and the deck.
The kitchen and the deck.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there other members of the board that have any questions?
I just want to, this is a question for Laura. Are there valid building permits as of today?
No, all of the permits were denied and we haven't gone to the next step of addressing the concrete.
So I'm struggling with applying 2253. And I'll just read it and maybe it's a question for Elena. It says a non-conforming building may be structurally altered as long as cumulative alterations do not add more than 10% to the usable floor area of said building or structure as it existed on July 1st, 1971, and when a valid zoning and building permit has been obtained. I'm not sure how we apply this if a valid zoning and building permit hasn't been obtained.
I don't think it doesn't matter. I mean, it's just, they're here for appealing that right now. So if the board were to grant it, then the next step would be to get the valid building permit, but there's not going to be any building permits issued until this case has been resolved. Or there won't be one, depending on the board's determination.
It's my understanding this is a precondition of getting a building permit.
If the if the building inspector does his calculations and sees that a proposed addition will be over 10%, it gets denied. The only way that they can issue it is if it gets a variance. So then it goes beyond the 10% cumulatively and it does get a permit. But as soon as it goes over 10%, it'll get denied.
All right.
And we have seen a couple of them recently, actually, because pretty much all the homes in Old Niskayuna are pre-existing the code. So when they add additions, they do sometimes exceed that floor area.
Mr. Prasad, why don't you tell us a little bit about why you need the kitchen addition?
The kitchen addition, originally the kitchen was very small in the house, and the toilet was actually on the deck area. And because I have a large family and we love to cook, so that's the reason why I asked if we could get a kitchen outside, and the contractor said yes. And
I'm not following you. You need a kitchen outside. Are you referring to the deck? You have some kind of kitchen?
oh no, the addition, the 10 by 22, that's my kitchen.
Right, and you
Yes.
need that to accommodate your family. the size
Yes,
of your
yes,
family.
that's my kitchen now.
And so do you have a table in there that accommodates everybody?
Yes, I have a table and I have a 6-seater countertop.
Okay.
Yes.
And before that, what did you have?
Before that,
Where was your kitchen before that? How big was your kitchen?
everything was in the house.
Okay. And do you think it could accommodate your entire family at that point in time?
No.
Okay. How many people was it built for approximately, would you say?
The kitchen, maybe around 4 people
4 people.
Yeah.
Okay. And how many are in your household on a daily basis?
on a daily basis. 6.
Okay. And with respect to the deck, what is the deck constructed of?
Wood and I forgot to call this material.
Some composite material?
Yes, composite. Yes.
Okay. And is there anything on the deck currently? Do you have anything other than just chairs and tables?
I have my grill. I have a portable stove.
Okay.
Yes. Some swings, some chair. Some swings there for the kids.
All right. Well, I think from my perspective, okay, and I can only speak from my perspective, I think you have a lot going on with respect to this application. I think there are issues with respect to how everything was constructed. And, I do you have any suggestions? Well, you don't need to make any suggestions. Okay. Why don't we, if there's nobody else from the board has any question, Mr. Dolman?
I just have a quick question, actually for Laura. I just want to understand the procedure a little bit here. So if, for example, we were to grant a variance specifically for the kitchen addition, that does not necessarily mean that a building permit will be granted. There is a separate process for that building permit that would address any concerns that neighbors might have about wiring, et cetera. If it wasn't up to code, then that building permit would be denied.
So a building permit would be issued based on compliance with two things, the zoning code and the building code. It gets denied immediately when it doesn't comply with the zoning code, and then it comes here if the applicant chooses to appeal. After it goes through its zoning review, then it has to comply with the building code. And when it's post-construction, typically the building inspector would issue the permit with conditions, and it would be incumbent on the applicant to have an engineer come and review the electrical, or they'll have to get electrical inspections and an electrical underwriter. So it gets issued to be in compliance with the building code, and it wouldn't get closed until it was in compliance with the building code.
So I just want to make sure as I'm considering what's going on here, the electrical issues are beyond my scope. The only thing that's within my scope is to determine within the 5 legal balancing points whether or not the addition can exist, period, correct?
Yeah, zoning. The building inspector's job would be to make sure it complies with the electrical code.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay, do you have anything else?
I just wanted to know what our ability was, Mr. Chairman, because there's multiple appeals with multiple sections each. What's our ability to parse out each of those things relative to the number of applications and number of matters being addressed?
Well, I think Elena could address that.
So it's really going to be up to whoever makes the motion, but my recommendation would be, given the fact that there's 2 different cases and multiple variances for different portions, like you got the carport, the deck, the addition, I would, as much as it's a pain, take it one at a time.
Okay. All right, Mr. Prasad, why don't you have a seat for a second? I'm going to ask if there's any members of the community that wish to be heard for or against your application. Are there any members here of the community that wish to be heard for or against Mr. Prasad's application? Sir, why don't you come forward? If you could state your name and address for the record.
My name is John Russ. I live at 1139 Palmer Avenue on the left side. And really, it's just all stuff. It's just kind of been a mess over the last year. And try to get ahead of it last year with, saying my concerns. And now this year, the concerns are actually legitimate problems. So I had the pictures with my backyard just flooded, which never happened. And I just kind of want to go on the record saying, like, I don't accept the negative impact that happened to my property because of this, and none of it was done the proper way.
Okay. Is it Mr. Russ or Rust?
Russ, R-U-S-S.
Okay, Mr. Russ. You've heard Mr. Prasad speaking. You've heard some of what we had to say. I think that the issue in your backyard is directly related to the concrete, the amount of concrete. And, we talked about the limited nature of what this board can do relative to the concrete at this time, but the process doesn't end with this board. There's going to be a whole separate review by the building department, which would, based upon what Ms. Robertson said, address a lot of those issues relative to water mitigation efforts. So I think that irrespective of what happens before this board, I just want you to know there's another process that has to take place. Okay. That being said, assuming for the sake of argument that the water issue is resolved on the property, meaning your property is not negatively being impacted by it.
Right.
Of the things that are before the board are basically the fence, which Mr. Prasad has said he's taking down.
Okay.
Okay. And then we have the carport and the carport in the back, the deck and the kitchen addition. Of those issues, specifically those issues, do you have concerns related to those issues?
Well, this is the fence really, but if he says I have trouble backing on my driveway and I'm just, afraid to hit someone or someone hit me.
Well, the fence comes down. The fence
Yeah.
is going to come down. Mr. Prasad said.
Okay.
The
If
fence
that's
is
not
going
an
to come down.
issue-
I'm saying, with respect to the remaining issues, do you have specific concerns relative to, I'll just take it, the carport? And I'm not trying to fish for an answer one way or the other. I'm just asking you, what do you think?
Just the carport, unfortunately, it's an eyesore. Like when it comes down to it, like my issue is I wouldn't buy my house today with this house next to it. And that's a concern of mine.
Okay.
We lived here because we wanted to be close to our neighbors. I like him. I have good conversations with him and try to get ahead of it with his contractor before it even has any negative impact on our relationship. But yeah, I think it's the whole scope of everything. It's just been a mess.
Okay. And I understand your position with respect to the carport. How about the kitchen addition and the deck?
I personally don't have any issues with
Okay.
those.
Just say we can rewind time. Nothing's been constructed. He comes before this board and says, I want to put a kitchen addition with a deck. That's it. You would be okay with that?
Yeah, as long as it's all done the proper way. Yeah,
Again, and that gets to the building
Correct.
department side of the ledger here.
yes.
Okay. Is there anything else?
No, I just really wanted to just kind of have the impact it had, on me, and I have 4 little kids, and just the impact on all of them too.
I appreciate your concerns and don't take anything that I'm
No, I'm,
saying to make light of your concerns. I see the pictures. If I was getting water in my yard, that would certainly be a concern of mine as well.
okay.
Let me just ask if there's any members of the board that have questions for you.
Okay.
Anybody? So Russ, it sounds like you stated your case pretty succinctly, and I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other members of the public that wish to be heard for or against this application? Is there anybody on this board that has any additional questions for Mr. Prasad?
I do.
Okay, hold on. Ms. Pacheco? Okay, Mr. Prasad, if you just come forward. Mr. Daly has a question.
Yes, you put a kitchen in, am I correct?
Yes.
You did it.
No.
You had a contractor do it.
Yes.
And did the contractor do the electrical up to code?
To my understanding, I don't want to say yes, I don't want to say no, but to me it's yes.
Well, then he didn't. Because you don't know,
Sorry.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. So why didn't you get an inspection?
For
You
electrical?
yourself, get an inspection. Was he a licensed electrical contractor?
He did about four jobs to me, and I never had an issue. But this house here, he messed up a lot. Yeah.
Question.
Yeah.
Was he electrical contractor? Licensed?
I don't know.
So you just go out and hire anybody and they do it, right? Is that what you're saying to me?
Was a referral from, because I didn't know anyone up here.
No? Oh, well.
Yeah.
So you don't know if that kitchen is adequate, wired right? And you got people living in that building, in that house,
Yes.
and you didn't get an inspection?
No, I didn't get an inspection.
You don't know anything about wiring then?
No.
Nothing? So you don't know if you ran 14 wire, you ran 12 wire?
Vinny, I'm going to just interject at this point. I think he's answered the question that he just doesn't know, and the electric work isn't part of the variance that's being
Okay.
considered. Thank you, though.
Withdraw.
I
But
think your
if
point is made.
if I might say something, now that all this is up, I might actually get someone to come and check it. So I could be on the safe side.
That
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Prasad. You have anything further to say?
First of all, I'm sorry for all this trouble. I didn't know about all this stuff, and the contractor, he messed me up a lot. So I'm sorry
Okay.
for all this trouble.
I appreciate that. Ms. Pachinko, you had a question for Laura?
Yes, I did. Laura, just a couple of clarifications. I know we've been talking for some time about this application with a few things said about the fence in the front yard, and I just want to clarify whatever the fence is that's in the front yard, that is being removed. Is that correct? And I'll
Yes.
ask the applicant.
Well, can I actually correct that? I think he said he's gonna make it code compliant, but not completely remove.
So I would like
Is it-
some clarification there.
If I may ask the question, can I ask the question to my neighbor?
Well, I think sir, if the issue is, is your neighbor going to approve the installation of a fence if it's code compliant?
It's really to be resolved outside of here. He's withdrawn the request for the variance
Right.
itself.
So that, yeah,
So it would be incumbent upon you to either make it a code compliant fence or remove it completely.
Yes,
That
no
can be
problem.
between you and your neighbor to
Okay.
decide, but I
Yes,
don't know,
will do.
Ms. Pacheco, I don't know if that helps you with what your question was.
I just wanted to be clear about what motions the board may make, a member of the board may
So with
make
respect
relative
to
to
that one, he's withdrawn his request for an
A
area for the
variance.
variance for
For the
the
fence.
fence. So what that means is the building department will give him a very short period of time in which to make that code compliant and or remove it.
Thank you. So the other question I had, and this is for Laura, in terms of the calculation, I know that you said Part B of the second application was based on everything that has been applied for in Part A. And since the suggestion by council has been to address each portion of this individually with motions, I would just like to understand how the 18% usable floor area additional was calculated.
Yes, so the 18% usable floor area was calculated, I was just looking at it. The 16 by 22 addition only. And that's because it's usable floor area, which is, I believe, enclosed. Although the deck does have a sort of roof structure over it, it's not enclosed. So that variance, the 18% variance for the usable floor area is solely applying to the rear addition, is not impacted by any of the other variance requests.
So the 18% is referring to the 16 by 22 addition only, the enclosed kitchen.
Correct.
So with that explanation, if the board was so inclined, you could combine the setback area variances with that usable floor area variance with respect to the kitchen and then do a separate motion with respect to the setbacks for the deck. I think that would actually make it cleaner if you handled the kitchen and the deck separately. If you chose to combine the two with respect to the kitchen, you could do that.
Okay, so just to again clarify that potentially the motion could be for approving a variance relative to the kitchen addition with setback
And with the usable floor area.
and the usable floor
But
area.
since the usable floor area doesn't apply to the deck, a separate motion would be had on that one. just
For
with
the
respect to the setback.
Setback. Thank you. That was all I needed. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions for members of the board? Having heard none, is there any discussion on this application? Is there anyone who wishes to make a motion, and let's take it in order as we just discussed. the first motion would be with respect to the first matter on the agenda, specifically related to the usable floor area and setback variance request relative to the construction of a kitchen. Okay, so that's the first matter that we're going to consider on the agenda this evening. I will take this one myself, make a motion. I'm going to make a motion to approve this portion of your variance. Let me explain my justification in doing so. As I told you right at the get-go, the fact that you constructed these, made substantial changes to your property without going through the proper process is 100% at your risk. Okay, and the risk is that you come before this board and we tell you to tear it all down. Okay, and the wheels of building and code enforcement justice may turn slowly, but they eventually catch up to you. I take you at your word that some of these issues were exacerbated by communications issues with your neighbor, but the number one, or your contractor rather, but the number one issue that I'm looking at this, when I'm looking at this particular variance request, these two variance requests relative to the kitchen, is if none of this was constructed and you came here and you said that you wanted to construct a kitchen in this part of Niskayuna, which we all have always recognized, that there's properties that are close together, and that there's limited areas for additions to be constructed. We typically look at these types of applications favorably. Okay. So based upon that, I don't believe that you can achieve the goal of enlarging your kitchen in a method other than what you did, without passing any judgment with respect to the quality of the construction, because that'll be addressed separately. And so I don't believe the means could be feasibly achieved by other means. The kitchen in and of itself, and again, I'm just talking about the construction of the kitchen. We're not talking about all of the projects that were undertaken with respect to this lot, but I don't think that in and of itself would create an undesirable change in the neighborhood. An addition like this in Old Niskayuna would be a substantial request for a variance. But again, the kitchen in and of itself, I don't view it as creating any adverse physical or environmental impacts. I think that with respect to this project, it's easy to get caught up for good reason in the scope of the changes that you've made and you've sat here and you've admitted that those changes cumulatively have created environmental impacts on your neighbors, which are going to have to be remediated by you going forward through the building permit process, and the building department is going to ensure that. And I'm speaking most clearly about the amount of concrete and the water mitigation efforts that are going to be required to stop or mitigate the flooding issues, which you've seen photographs of today, which are very serious in my estimation.
Yes.
That in and of itself, though, isn't a basis. If we had just put the kitchen addition and we stopped there, I think that you would find favorable support from this board. So was the difficulty self-created? Yes, certainly for all the reasons we talked about, the difficulty was self-created. But balancing these factors relative to the need for the kitchen, I think that the factors mitigate in favor of granting the variances for the kitchen. Okay, so that is the motion that's pending. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Ms. Cicchetti, will you call the roll with respect to the variance requests for the usable floor area and the side yard setback relative to the kitchen only?
Mr. Chairman, I believe there's a point of order on the motion before we move to roll call.
Okay.
Is there any discussion on the motion?
Is there discussion on the motion?
Yes, I would just like to bring up regarding the drainage off of the roof of kitchen addition only, regardless of the concrete. Can that be made a condition of the approval of that kitchen addition, that the drainage is addressed? It's regardless of the concrete.
Okay, we're gonna have to amend the motion to add that condition, right?
So I guess my question just to Laura would be, is that something that would be addressed with the building department, or does that have to be made a condition? Or yeah, would that be addressed with the permit process or no?
It would be addressed with the building permit process. But I also feel like it could be a condition of the variance if that was directly related to the increased impervious surface of the roof or something. Just, it doesn't, as long as it pertains to the variance, I think it'd still be okay. But yes, we would still do it in the building permit.
I guess my point is just if this board still feels it's necessary to make it a condition, you can make a motion to amend the motion that's on the table. If you're otherwise satisfied with the fact that the building department would address that as part of the building permit process, then that wouldn't be necessary, but you can do whatever you feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, Ms. Pacheco, I think that it's really your question, since it's your concern. I think it's a legitimate concern, and I think if the harm is that it will be duplicative of what the building department's, what's the harm in making the motion?
It's not just about, what's the harm about making it duplicative of the permit process, building permit process. It's that it's directly related to, and with other projects that have come before the board, similarly, when we're looking at such an addition, we absolutely ask about where's the water going and so forth. So I just want to be consistent with previous discussions the board has had on similar projects.
Okay, so you'd like to make the motion to
Amend your motion relative to making sure that there is some kind of drainage mitigation with what comes off the roof. I don't know how to word that.
I think you say gutters. You want gutters.
Gutters, some kind of collection
Yes,
that keeps the water on site.
yes.
I guess the motion would be to make it a condition of any building permit issue that gutters be added to the kitchen addition.
Okay, so I make the motion to amend the chairman's motion that gutters be added to the kitchen addition as part of the permit condition or process.
I'm sorry, can I be like so obnoxious about this? I would actually just say that drainage be mitigated, because if you put gutters on them and they're directed in the wrong direction, I just think there's real true concern when you add impervious surfaces to the town of Niskayuna in any neighborhood, but especially in Old Niskayuna. But the way that you mitigate the drainage, we don't always know, because the gutters, if they could reach the front of the house, that may work great. But if they're going to the back of the house, it may not change anything. So I would just, rather than prescribing a treatment, I would say the issue is that the drainage, the impervious surface increases, cause it, that the drainage be mitigated.
Which I think is.
Okay, so I'll make the motion to amend the original motion that the roof drainage off of the kitchen addition is mitigated.
Thank you. And I'll second that motion to amend. Ms. Shigetti, we call the roll on the motion to amend.
Motion to amend. Lataif,
Yes.
Dolman,
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Mr. Daly,
Yeah,
Mr. Gentile,
Yes.
Mr. Antonikowski.
Yes.
Chairperson Hoke.
Yes. The motion's been amended. Is there any further discussion on the amended motion? Having heard no further discussion on the amended motion, I don't think that has to be seconded again. It was already seconded once.
Right.
Vote on the
Ms.
motion as amended.
Yeah. Ms. Shigetti, we call the roll on the motion as amended, please.
Mr. Lataif.
Yes.
Mr. Dolman,
Yes.
Ms. Pacheco,
Yes.
Mr. Daly,
yeah.
Mr. Gentile,
Yes.
Mr. Antonikowski.
Yes.
Chairperson Hoke.
Yes. Okay. So the next matter to be considered here is the deck structure. And with respect to the deck structure, we're talking about the setback requirements. Does anybody wish to make a motion with relative to the deck?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Yes, Mr. Dolman.
I would move that the variances, application for variances regarding the deck be granted. I find that the benefit is not going to be able to be achieved by other means, especially within the tight quarters of an old Niskiuna property. I don't find that the deck is an undesirable change in the neighborhood. I do find that the request for the deck is a substantial request for the variance, and as has been addressed, there is a self-created factor here. However, on the balance, I would move that we move to grant the variances with regard to the deck.
The motion's been made. Is there a second to that motion?
I second the motion.
A motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion on the motion? Having heard none, Mr. Kenny, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Latif?
This is a tough decision because I'm not happy about building all these things without permits and all these things that happen in this application. Unfortunately, the deck is already up, and as the applicant indicated, that he was misled by the contractor on everything happening here. For all these reasons, I'm gonna vote yes, as Mr. Dolman said.
Mr. Dolman?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Daly?
Yes, I'm reluctant to vote yes, but yes, for the reasons.
Mr. Gentile?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Yes.
And Chairperson Hoke?
Yes, and I'll just note from my perspective, with respect to the deck, is similar to the addition to the home. Based upon what the applicant has said, the deck construction would be something that typically we would consider. So I'm viewing this as if it wasn't constructed in the first place. And for that reason, I vote yes. Okay, the final issue is on the second matter on the agenda for Mr. Prasad relative to the carport. And this requires, the carport would require 3 separate variances to be approved. Is that correct? So if you're going to make a motion, it would probably be easier to make a motion relative to the 3 variances, or at least reference them. Does anyone want to make a motion relative to the carport?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Dolman?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to deny the request to maintain the carport. I find that the benefit of having the carport is not particularly compelling. And so whether or not it can be achieved is difficult to say. So I would say that it can be achieved by other means. I do find that, particularly based on comments from the community, and additionally, what we have consistently ruled as a board, that this is a detriment to the neighborhood and an undesirable change. This is a substantial request. Whether it is certainly possible that the carport is exacerbating environmental impacts, but ultimately that's beyond my personal expertise. And this obviously is a self-created difficulty. So on the balance, I would move to deny the request, the variance to have the carport.
Okay. And you're referring to all the variance requests?
All of the variance requests pertaining to the carport.
Okay, a motion's been made. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that for all the reasons stated.
Okay, a motion's been made and seconded. Ms. Chiquetti, we call the roll, please.
Mr. Latif?
I'm gonna vote yes on,
Mr. Dolman?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes.
Mr. Daly?
Yeah.
Mr. Gentile?
Yes.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Yes.
Chairperson Hope?
I'll vote yes as well. I'll just add that whether the benefit can be achieved or not achieved by the applicant in terms of parking the number of vehicles on the property is swamped by the other factors in this analysis with respect to the undesirable change in the neighborhood, as well as the environmental impacts that the carport and the size of the carport and the location of the carport would have. Coupling that with the substantial nature of it, and the fact that the difficulty was certainly self-created, this makes it, from my perspective, fairly straightforward in its now. So I vote yes as well. Sir, I think that addresses all of your concerns and variances. A mixed bag of results here today. The kitchen and the deck can stay from a zoning perspective, and the carport cannot from a zoning perspective. You can follow up with Ms. Robertson tomorrow to find out what the next steps are, okay?
Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Hope. Tomorrow the office is closed.
Okay, on Friday then. Are we open on Friday?
Yes.
Okay, Friday
So-
then.
Just a question, can I make the carport smaller?
Okay, so these are issues you
Okay.
should talk to the,
No problem.
from what's before us tonight,
Okay,
the variance was not approved, okay?
thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a good.
Mr. Kenny, we call the next matter on the agenda for the evening.
Appeal by Claudia Coselli for a variance from section 220-15D and section 220-13 Schedule IB of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskiuna as it applies to the property at 700 Hampshire Seat, Niskiuna, New York, located in the R1 Low Density Residential Zoning District, to construct a shed partially within the side and rear yard setbacks. Section 220-15D corner lots, front yard minimums shall be required for both yards facing a street on a corner lot. Side yard minimum shall be required for the remaining 2 yards for properties located in the R1 and R2 zoning district. Section 220-13 Schedule IB requires a side yard setback of 20 feet. As proposed, the shed will be located 15.5 feet from one side and 6.5 feet from the other side of the property line. Therefore, a 4.5 foot side setback and a 13.5 foot side setback variance is required. The 10 notices were mailed, 0 responses.
The applicant, please come forward, please.
If I'm allowed, rather than just
You-
Roselli.
Sure. Why don't we just take it one at a time though? Okay, if you don't mind. Oh, is it a translation issue? Okay, I'm sorry. All right, sir, why don't you state your name and address for the record?
Yes. Adi Coselli, 700 Hampshire Seat, Niskiuna.
Okay. Is your brother going to be translating everything for you this
Yes.
evening?
Yes.
Okay, why doesn't your brother step up to the microphone so we can more clearly hear his responses? Okay. Sir, so I have a question for you. There's currently a shed on the property, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. And is the existing shed staying, if the variance was granted and you were able to put the new shed up, would you be keeping the old shed?
That's correct.
Okay.
The old shed will be still staying.
Okay. And why do we need 2 sheds?
So, the existing shed is smaller and my brother has a riding lawnmower. So if he is to store during the winter time or even nowadays, like during spring or other day, forever there, he won't be able to store anything else.
Okay.
He won't be able to go in or out. So the addition shed is just to store snow blower and all other stuff that he has there too.
Okay, so my understanding of what you're telling me is the existing shed, while it can accommodate the riding mower, that's all it can accommodate. And there's other lawn instruments that you would like to accommodate in the old shed and put the riding mower in the new shed to make it easier to access the mower and
That-
store the mower. Is that correct?
That is correct. If he's about to store the riding mower in the existing shed, you won't even be able to go inside there because we'll block the entrance, the door.
Okay. Do you have any photographs? I know that you referenced that the reason that you're putting the new shed in its location is because there's an existing concrete slab there, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, and I would assume that that's the reason why you would say it wouldn't make sense to put the shed anywhere else on the property because you have the existing slab there.
Correct. And unfortunately, it's, on his own risk, he already ordered a pre-made shed from Amazon, which is 11 by 13, and its height, it's not even 8 feet tall. It's about 6, 7.
Okay, and what's the new shed gonna be made of?
Metal.
Okay.
And it requires less effort to put it together until it's literally bolts and stuff.
Have you discussed the shed with either of your neighbors?
So my brother told me earlier that the neighbor from the next door, I believe it's 704 Hampshire Street, stopped by at their house and asked them regarding the proposed project that he's about to do. So they went on the back where the proposed addition shed is about to take place as long as it gets approved, obviously. And she said that she was totally fine as long as, of course, the area around it will be kept clean, which that there won't be an issue because it has plenty of space around both sheds together to maintain the landscaping and stuff.
And is the neighbor that you're referring to, is that the neighbor on Hampshire Street or in
Hampshire Street.
Hampshire Street?
So we'll be on the left as we're looking on the screen.
What about the neighbor on Bedford Way?
Okay, no, no one else. We haven't spoken to
Okay,
him.
you haven't
My
spoken to
brother.
that neighbor. Okay, I'm gonna ask if anybody else on the board has any questions for you.
Yes, I have a few questions. Regarding the neighbors to either side, is there a fence along the property line?
That's correct. So as we're looking on the screen is a fence on the Bedford Way, if I'm not mistaken. That's Bedford Way. So it's literally above the picture. There's a wooden fence.
So.
Please.
Yes.
Yep, there's one.
Okay, the shed that you said you have ordered from Amazon, what's the nature of the roof? Is it a peaked roof like this or is it one?
It's peak proof. Yeah.
Okay. So if you can indicate which way would it be draining? Where would the water go?
So it's gonna be on the sides towards the fence, if that's my understanding. Hold on a second, let me just, yeah, so, okay, so one is gonna be peaked, one side is gonna be draining towards the existing shed, and the other one towards the neighbor that has already talking about.
Or that neighbor that is along Bedford Way, is their property level, flat with yours, or is it higher or lower?
So it's higher, the neighbors.
So the water coming off the shed roof will likely stay on your property, you
Correct.
believe?
And also that being said, he says that whenever it rains around the existing shed, it kind of like floods a little bit to there. So the neighbor is not going to have any issues about flooding and whatnot.
Okay, your application also states there's an existing concrete pad there, and is that larger or smaller than the shed?
So basically that's why we ordered the shed, because it was through those dimensions. You know what I mean?
So they're
So-
matching
Right.
roughly.
Correct.
Okay.
But it's not gonna have any additional work or any other construction work other than just putting together, you know,
Okay, and did you say it was metal or wood?
Metal.
Metal.
metal, correct.
Thank you.
And approximately how far is the shed from the nearest structure, or your neighbor's structure on Bedford Way?
The nearest structure,
Yeah.
кухня, касова, пушка, касова, Jaffer. I don't believe that any of the Поечка пышина.
Laura, is there any way to see that on Google?
Yeah, that's what.
I'm trying to bring it up and my computer froze, but I was trying to bring it up.
Well, let me just ask you this question. There's, your property's fairly large, right?
Correct.
And the neighboring properties are fairly large, correct? And the shed where it's located, it's quite a distance from the structures on either your neighbor's property on Bedford Way or Hampshire Street,
Correct.
correct?
Yes,
Okay.
from,
So to Ms. Pacheco's point, any kind of water issues aren't going to be affected because the structures are far
Definitely.
enough away.
definitely not.
And your testimony or what you've indicated tonight is that the lowest point you believe is around your sheds in any event,
That's
right?
correct.
Okay. All right. I have nothing further.
No.
Is there anybody else that has any questions?
Question, please. Thank you for your patience. Things
Of
are
course.
taking a while tonight. The nature of the connection between this shed and the concrete slab, this is going to be a few screws. This is going to be, got
got
a
your
plan to
point.
make this connection?
I got your point. Unfortunately, I don't know the name of the bolt, wherever it's
Okay.
called.
Thunder
Really?
screws,
I'm sorry?
thunder screws.
Maybe.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe. So basically it's those parts that you have to drill the holes in the concrete and then once you tie it up, it expands.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just make sure.
It's nice.
Yep, that's all.
Thank you. Any other questions? Having heard no other questions from the board, is there any members of the public that wish to be heard for or against this application? Having heard no members of the public that wish to be heard for or against this application, are there any members of the board that wish to make a motion for or against this application?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion.
Mr. Dolman, go ahead.
I would move to approve the variance as it has been submitted. This is probably an advantage of having community members actually sitting on this board. I've literally had this exact same issue, and I hope my wife doesn't hear that I'm about to grant this variance. But I do find that the benefit of needing the additional storage, especially with the riding lawnmower to maintain a large property, cannot be achieved by any other feasible means. There's no reason to believe that this would be an undesirable change in the neighborhood. I do believe this is a substantial request, and there's no reason to believe that there's going to be any physical or environmental effects. And sure, this is self-created to a certain extent, but that's not determinative. On the balance, I would move to approve the application as written.
A motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second that for everything that was said.
All right. Mr. Gentile wasn't fast enough on the draw. But he's the fastest seconder we have up there.
Thanks. Mr. James.
A motion's been made and seconded. Ms. Shakedi, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Latif?
Yes.
Mr. Dolman?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes, for the reasons stated, and I'll add also the uniqueness of the property being large lends itself to having the sheds as far back from the road as possible. So I find that a desirable effect in the neighborhood. So I vote yes.
Mr. Daly?
Yes, for all the reasons stated.
Mr. Gentile?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Chairperson Hoke?
Yes, for the reasons stated. Your variance has been approved. Good luck with the project.
Thank you.
so much.
Have a good day, guys.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
one. Mr. Kitty, we call the next matter on the agenda this evening.
Appeal by Chris Fink for a variance from section 220-25B1A of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskiuna as it applies to the property at 2316 Nelson Drive, Niskiuna, New York, located in the R2 Medium Density Residential Zoning District, to install 6-foot-high fence exceeding the height allowed in the side yard. The property is a corner lot. As defined, each street line shall be considered a front lot line, thus in the front yards along Nelson Drive and Providence Ave. The interior line most nearly parallel to the rear of the principal structure shall be deemed the rear lot line. The other interior line shall be deemed the side line. Fence section 220-25B1A permits the maximum height for fences located in the front and side yards to be 4 feet. As proposed, 6-foot-high fence will be located in the side yard. Therefore, a 2-foot fence height variance is required. 12 notices were mailed, 0 responses.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute adjournment. So if you just want to stop for a second, and we'll be with you in a shortly, okay? My daughter, I don't know who else was, but you know. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're rubbing around.
I'm, more best about
It was actually fun.
I was extremely impressed by,
Yeah.
10,000. Oh, yeah, I knew it.
Yeah, like one of the legal criteria goes as well. So it's like, I think John did a good job with it. If we say no, then you have to take it down from the state requires. I mean, it would be to the extent that if you were to grant the variance, you could request a convenience case.
But there's nothing, we have nothing in our, in the town code about it.
Why do you want on our has to stay on the somewhere similar. So it's not zoning.
Not zoning, but it's there.
Yeah.
Okay, were we back? Yes, we're still live. Okay. Okay, great. The applicant, please come forward. Mr. Fink?
My name is Chris, Chris. My last name is Fink, F as in Frank, INK. I live at 2316 Nelson Drive. We came before this body last year and got a variance. However, due to circumstances with our contractor beyond our control, the fence was never built. So we're requesting another variance to put up the 6 foot. It's basically, this is, Alan will show you where it is. Yeah,
Why don't you go and grab, are you going to speak or are you just going to point? Okay. Why don't you go and point for us? Okay. Thank you, sir. Laura, is this the exact same variance application that was previously before the board?
Oh, we brought the old case. Hooray for Linda.
No. You guys have the picture at the back of your case.
What was it?
Yeah, you have the statement of the board's decision and the picture what we granted.
I think the only difference is we went from wood to vinyl because of expenses.
Okay. But the scope of the variance
The
request.
scope of the variance, everything is exactly the same.
Okay. I was going to ask you looked familiar. I knew that you'd been before the board, but that clarifies it.
There's a small piece in the original one right here that returns the house that isn't in this drawing. Oh, you can just talk in the microphone.
We're not going to do any changes to that part that we just showed.
Oh, so it's a
That's not
dotted line because
included.
that's going to stay the
That is
same.
not included.
So
That would involve taking out grapevines that are no longer available anymore, so we stay.
Mr. Fink, we've actually reduced the scope of the variance request from the first time. First, same as last time. Okay.
I think fence that's there is 6 feet, but he's not asking to replace it, correct? That connects to the house. Right?
Is there, okay, Mr. Fink, let me just ask you, that portion, is there currently a fence there?
Yes,
Okay,
it's lattice. Yeah,
okay, there's lattice,
it's
there's
got
a lattice.
vines on it. Yes.
Okay, and that's been there for quite some time.
For over 20, I've owned the house over 20 years and it's
Okay.
been there for over
And
20 years.
we're not replacing that?
No.
Okay. And then, so the only portion that's being replaced is from that junction to the back, or at least for the need for the variance, is from the junction with the lattice work to the back corner of the house there, right? And how far do you estimate that is? 18
18
feet.
feet.
Okay. And as you've indicated, this was previously approved by the board, but you didn't get the project done again, which is what necessitates your need to come back before the board.
We have a different contractor.
Okay. And okay, so I don't have any other questions. Are there any members of the board that have questions?
Just wondering, I don't remember a year ago, why do you need a 6 feet fence?
Privacy.
Okay, so what is it, the privacy you're trying to get? Your neighbors, the street? What is it you,
It's both.
Both.
And our windows here for our family room are on the back side of the house, so that would give us some privacy into the windows at the back of the house
okay, so,
and onto the deck.
okay, so how high is your deck from is it even with you can step out from the house to the
Yeah.
deck?
Yep.
It is, that is, yes.
And that's been there for 20 years.
Okay. Just, I think Laura's trying to pull up a picture for us.
Yep.
Okay,
So this is the last one.
okay. You're replacing that wood fence. So there is a fence there, 6 feet fence or 4? That's gone, okay. Okay. And that's why that was approved probably because you already had an existing fence.
It had been there for over
and it
20
was-
years.
okay, That makes sense. I don't
We had
I
a
don't
bad
remember.
snowstorm and the
I remember it now that we're talking
Okay.
about it. It's coming back to me. I think also, Mr. Lataif, we took into consideration that it was relatively de minimis in terms of the scope of the length that was needed.
Yeah, 18 feet.
Yeah. So, and the kind of the unique structure and the vegetation that had grown there over time, I think all those things were taken into consideration.
And just wondering about your neighbors.
the lot next to me, it's a double lot, so I own the lot next to me. So
Okay,
the
you own
closest
that
neighbor is
The lot. after.
my lot and then the next lot and then the lot over. So 2 lots
Okay.
away, 3 lots away.
So you got a neighbor 3 lots away. Okay, thank you. That's it. Thanks.
Mr. Pacheco?
No, I was just going to comment that I also recall the case being in front of us, and if I recall correctly, the view from the street is currently blocked by the lattice portion. And as you're kind of coming down Nelson towards Providence, you're actually coming downhill towards your property. So the next house over is a bit higher, which is why I believe you had stated you wanted the 6-foot height fence. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to be heard, or is there any members of the board that wish to be heard with the application? Okay, having heard no other members of the board that wish to be heard, is there any members of the public that wish to be heard for or against this application? It doesn't appear that anybody is here to be heard. Is there any members of the board that wish to make a motion relative to this application?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance as requested. The means do not seem to be feasible by any other, or the achievement does not seem feasible by other means. This project has been in front of us prior, and I think the same comments that were used in the previous approval also apply here. It's not an undesirable change in the neighborhood. While a 2-foot variance on a fence is substantial by and large, in this case, I would not change my previous vote and say that this is not going to have adverse physical or environmental effects. And while it is self-created, it's not determinative. And on the whole, the balance, I vote to approve.
A motion been made. Is there a second to that motion?
I second the motion, and I'd like to add that, Mr. Fink, that usually 6 feet fence, we don't approve them easily, but somehow we approved it for you last year. So for all the reasons stated before, I second the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. A motion's been made and seconded. Ms. Shakedi, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lataif?
Yes.
Mr. Dolman?
Yes, but I'd like to add that I would definitely hold 18 feet of 6-foot fence to be a substantial request. However, it's mitigated by the structure of property ownership here, as well as the existence of pre-existing structures.
Ms. Pacheco?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
Mr. Daly?
Yes, for all the reasons stated.
Mr. Gentile?
Yes, defer to Ms. Pacheco's recollection of the previous case.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Yes, for the reasons stated.
And Chairperson Hoke.
Yes, for the reasons stated. Your variance has been reapproved.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good one. You call the next matter, Ms. Shakedi?
Appeal by Michael and Louise Morris for a variance from section 220-13 Schedule IB of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskiuna as it applies to the property at 768 Lyshik Hill Road, Niskiuna, New York, located in the R1 Low Density Residential Zoning District, to construct an addition partially within the side yard setback. Section 220-13 Schedule IB requires a side yard setback of 20 feet. As proposed, the addition will be located 13 feet from the side property line. Therefore, a 7-foot side yard setback variance is required. 10 notices were mailed, 2 responses.
Good afternoon. I just wanted to reach out on the behalf of our neighbors, Louise and Mike Morris, who have who are having a hearing tonight on their house on Leishikill Road. We are neighbors with them who live directly across the street and have been able to see all the improvements they have made, even just from the front of their house and yard. We are so excited to see the new addition to their house and are in full support of having the project done. Have a great afternoon and really hope their approval passes tonight. Thank you for your time, Cassandra Rink. Lewis Carr and Brittany Lawton, 672 Leishikill Road, Niskuna, New York. To the Town of Niskuna Zoning Board of Appeals regarding the support for side yard setback variance request by Michael and Louise Morris. Dear members of the zoning board, we are writing to express our support for the side yard setback variance requested by our neighbors, Michael and Louise Morris, as outlined in the notice regarding their upcoming appeal to the Zoning Board of Appeals. As the adjacent property owners, we understand that the Morrises are seeking a 7-foot side yard setback variance to allow for a proposed addition to their home, which would place the new construction approximately 13 feet from our shared property line. After reviewing their plans and considering the size and layout of our own property, we are fully comfortable with the proposed variance. The addition will not impact our home or any existing structures on our property, nor will it affect our quality of life or privacy. We believe the proposed project is a reasonable improvement and will not detract from the character or enjoyment of our neighborhood. We respectfully ask that you consider our support as part of your deliberations and approval process. Sincerely, Lucas Carr and Brittany Lawton.
Thank you. Will the applicant please come forward? State your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Mike Morris, 768 Leishikill Road. My wife Louise.
Okay, and I see that you have some
Some
charts and graphs. Well, why don't
very prepared.
yeah, you took the time to prepare 'em. Why don't you see if you can, you want to just hand them up here? Or okay, no, maybe you can put them on the chair so everybody can see them simultaneously.
Put them over there, right there. These are
Okay, well, sir, hold on. Let me just stop you because we record everything, so we want to make sure that you're being recorded.
Oh, okay.
All right, so why don't you tell us about the project?
Well, the driveway is parallel to the side of the house where the side entrance is. And that would be coming in the driveway this way. And that's the door we use all the time. And there's no transition area. So you come right into the kitchen, living room. We have a dog. So the dog's out running around, dog's wet. So, you know, in the winter, inclement weather, there's nowhere to come in, take your shoes off, anything like that. So it's really a functional issue to give us that space and also a health issue. The laundry room is downstairs. I've had 3 knee operations. I've got bad arthritis. I know I look young, but I'm going to be 70 soon. So, and carrying the laundry up and down the stairs is becoming a difficult issue. So this would give us the extra room to bring the laundry upstairs and that transition area addition to the house.
So just for clarification purposes, the new where you're going into the house on the side is going to be a laundry room, mudroom type area.
It's going to be, yes, mudroom.
And then the addition is going on the opposite side. Where's the addition? Is the addition going on the?
The addition will be going right here where you enter.
Okay.
Right.
Portion of the house here.
Okay.
Where you enter the house.
And is that going to encroach upon what is currently the driveway, or is that going to be on some of the driveway?
8 feet. The driveway is about 20 feet wide.
Okay. And of the neighbors that contacted you, or the neighbors that submitted letters, I know one was across the street. Was the other neighbor, where are they located in relation to?
They're on the side where the addition is going to.
Okay. So looking at your home, they're going to be to the right, looking at your property from the road. They're
looking from the road at the house, straight at the house. They're on the right side.
Okay. And they wrote a letter that we have in the record in support of your application.
Correct.
Okay.
Now we're about, you can't see it too well here, but well, you can a little. These these pine trees, privacy trees are about 40 feet high. They start about right here where we're gonna have the addition and go all the way to the street. Their house is towards the front of the street. Ours is set back about 150 feet. So basically, we're probably 150 feet from the back of their house. And you've got all the privacy shrubs at, 40 feet high, so.
Understood. Are there any members of the board that have questions?
I got just one question to start out. Thank you for coming out, and this is a beautifully written application. But the question is, what considerations did you make regarding the addition about building in back of the house to alleviate any of the need for this variance?
But it's an original log house, real logs. So, and the addition won't be the full logs, it'll be the partial log siding. So it'll stay with definitely with the character of the house. But the back of the house, when you come in that side entrance, you've got the kitchen right there, and against that back wall is sink, dishwasher. So you can't really do anything there. You'd have to tear that all down and move it somewhere. You'd also, further down, we've got a deck off the back of the house. So, and then after that, you've got the bathroom and one of the bedrooms, and that's the whole back of the house. So it really, plus the convenience of just driving up. Currently, right now, this side entrance is right here. This will be moved, this door in will be put forward. It's currently on the side if the addition wasn't showing there. So there's really no other option. We talked to the builder about it. We talked to the architect, and they said, yeah, for what you need and what you want to do, it doesn't make any sense to try and do anything else. You would have to basically tear down the whole back of the house, and now you're talking, this is expensive enough, but.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions for members of the board? Okay, having heard no other questions from members of the board, is there any members of the public who wish to be heard for or against this application? Doesn't look like anybody's filing in here at the last minute. Is there anything else the applicant would like to say? I know you've put together a nice application. And I think because you've answered so many questions in your application, that makes it easier for us to visualize what's happening without the need for a lot of questions. But I can appreciate it if I sat here all night waiting for my time to be heard and there weren't a lot of questions. I'd be saying, why not me? Well, in this case, I think a lack of questions might be a sign that your application was complete at the.
If you're gonna say no.
There was,
We can answer those.
there was a couple of cases before us where I said, well, they granted those variances. I think we're okay.
Don't count your chickens, but.
All right, I won't.
All right. I don't have any other questions. There are no other members of the board that have questions. Does anybody wish to make a motion relative to this application?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance for the 7-foot side yard setback. Based on the applicant's response about considerations about mitigating the variance itself, I don't believe that the benefit can be achieved by any other means. This seems to be the most feasible way to go as far as the project and what they're seeking to accomplish. I don't see any undesirable change in the neighborhood. It appears that the addition will match the exterior of the house and very nicely. It's beautiful. I do consider it a substantial request only in the scope of the amount of side yard setback that is going to be required. I don't believe that there will be any adverse physical or environmental effects. And while I think we can all say that, I'm not going to say, it is self-created in that, you've gone in that particular direction. It's a substantial request, but it's not determinative. So for those reasons, I motion to approve the variance.
A motion's been made. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
A motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Having heard none, Ms. Shakedi, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Latif.
Yes, I'm gonna vote what the applicant was expecting. A vote yes, but I'm gonna say, what a good job on your design. And I just want to add that the reason for the addition of the house, as the applicant mentioned, they moving some stuff from the basement to make it more convenient for them. And I think this is for me was a go to vote.
Hard to admit I'm getting older. I can't
No,
go.
you still look good. You still look good.
I wanted to leave that off, but my wife said, no,
You can't be speaking when we're voting, but thank you.
Mr. Dolman.
Yes, and I'd like to add, along with Mr. Latype, that we've long factored in the consideration of aging in place to be a reasonable accommodation for a variance.
Ms. Pacheco.
Yes, for all the reasons stated, and the self-created difficulty is aging, which we're not creating ourselves. We have to deal with that. So I appreciate your effort to prove the need.
Mr. Daly.
Yes, for all the reasons stated.
Mr.
Extremely
Gentile?
Well laid out. Thank you.
Mr.
Ye-
Gentile.
Yes, for the reasons stated. Thank you for your patience this evening.
Mr. Antonikowski.
Yeah.
Chairperson Hoke.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for your preparation. And it made it fairly straightforward for us. Okay. Your variance has been granted. Thank you. All right. We have one more matter on the agenda this evening, and there will be some recusals relative to that matter. So those people recusing themselves, if they want to step down from the dais.
Yes, I need to recuse myself. My husband is a commissioner on the board, serving with Mr. Daly. So for that reason, I'm recusing myself. I think Mr. Daly's recusal is obvious.
Yeah. Mr. Daly, if you want to go down there. Okay. Mr. Daly, before we begin this evening, pursuant to municipal law, I think it's municipal law, correct, Elena? I believe it's municipal law. I don't know the section off the top of my head, but it's our understanding that you are an employee of the town of Niskayuna, correct?
Yes,
And-
I'm on a board of fire commissioners, and this was assigned to me by the chairman. We have 1 out of 5 board members, and everybody gets a job. This happened to be one of my jobs.
Okay, but just for the purpose of disclosure, you are disclosing your employment status, correct? Yes, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is on behalf of the
Fire District 1 on Balltown Road.
okay, so we're talking about the firehouse on Balltown Road.
Yes,
And you need to install a shed, or you're looking to install a shed behind the firehouse, correct?
that is correct.
Should I read the case?
Yeah, that's right. We have to read the case, don't we? Why don't we read the case for? Yeah, I'm jumping ahead here.
Appeal by Vincent Daly for a variance from Article 5, Section 220-18D and Schedule IC of the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskayuna as it applies to the property at 1079 Balltown Road, Niskayuna, New York, located in the R2 Medium Density Residential Zoning District, to construct a shed partially within the rear yard setback. Section 220-18D states non-residential uses, unless otherwise specified, accessory structures shall comply with the front, side, and rear yard requirements for the principal structure to which they are accessory, except that minor accessory structures may be as close as 10 feet from the rear property line. Section IC, column 5, minimum yard dimensions includes a minimum rear yard setback distance requirement of 20 feet. As proposed, the major accessory structure is located 7 feet from the rear property line. Therefore, a 13-foot rear yard setback variance is required. 21 notices were mailed, 0 responses, and the planning board made a referral.
Oops. At a regular planning board and zoning commission meeting held on June 9th, 2025, the planning board reviewed the appeal by Vincent Daly, acting on behalf of Niskayuna Fire District 1, for a variance from the zoning ordinance of the town of Niskayuna. The planning board made the following recommendations. Effect on the comprehensive plan. The planning board voted 7-0 that the proposed variance would have no effect on the comprehensive plan. Suitability of use. The board voted 7-0 that the proposed area variance was suitable as proposed. They noted that the shed is well screened with dense trees and vegetation buffering to the rear property line, and the shed is concealed from Balltown Road by the fire station building. Recommendation. The board voted 7-0 to recommend the ZBA approve the variance as written.
Thank you. Now we get back to us. Put the end for the beginning here. Mr. Daly, so you're familiar with this board. You also sit on this board, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and you recognize that currently sitting on this board we only have 5 members. You would need 4 to approve the variance in order to have the variance approved, correct?
Yes.
And you have an ability to request an adjournment to the next meeting when 7 members would be present. You understand that, correct?
Yes, I do, but I'd like to go through.
Okay, you'd like to move forward tonight?
Yes, move forward.
Okay, and we were talking about, as the application laid out and the planning board outlined, you're going to put a shed behind the firehouse.
Correct.
Okay, and that behind the shed, what's behind the shed?
Nothing. To the left. Lori, can we use this as a layout?
You,
Okay. All right. Right here. No, don't work. All right. Thank you. All right, right over here, this is our generator. It's 150 kV. Why do we have that there? That's there because if we have a...
You got to put the microphone up so we can hear the recording.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
We have the generator there that we have to have actually by law. If the town goes down with power, we do have power. Okay, that's to answer calls, et cetera, hopefully. Over here is going to be the new shed. The question was asked on the board, why do we need a new shed? We got a 54-inch wide lawnmower. We got snow blowers that the career guys, personnel, clear the walkways, and clear going down right here, okay? There's a road down in this area here, right, okay. Yeah. It goes down and around. We can bring an engine down there if we need it, if we ever need it, which we wouldn't, but the road's there. The shed will be put here. There'll be gravel put on the bottom of it. It'll be framed out with some kind of wood. I forgot the name of the wood. I'm sorry. And that gives us the advantage to free up one of the bays which we have during the winter. We have a lot of equipment. We got the snow blowers, we got not the plow, but we got the lawnmowers.
Right, so you're gonna store all that vin in the shed.
Yes, that's all,
So
that's all, and a couple of rakes maybe.
Right, and that's gonna free up a bay for you, at least during the winter time.
Oh, yeah,
You
absolutely.
could put additional equipment in, right?
Yes.
Fire-related equipment.
Fire related, yes.
Okay, and behind the shed, it looks from that image that's right before you, it looks like there's a lot of dense trees there, correct?
No, there's a fence.
Oh, there's a fence, but
It's a 6-foot fence that we put up.
Yep.
And we own, I believe, either 4 foot or 5 foot behind that fence.
Okay, and then I'm saying, if you look at that image right there, it looks like there's trees or shrubs between you and the homes behind the firehouse, correct? Is this?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So the shed they won't be able to see the shed.
No, no way.
No, okay.
Nobody
And
can see it from Balltown either.
Nobody can see it from Balltown Road, so
No.
it's very well concealed,
Oh, yes.
right? And you're gonna buy this from a kit, is it?
No. We have somebody that's gonna build it for us.
Okay, and
All right?
are they a contractor, somebody that's skilled in how to do these things?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and that the specs are right there on the screen right in front of you?
Yes. This isn't gonna be here. There's gonna be a door here because we don't need that.
Okay,
And the door is going to be wide enough with a little ramp that we can bring the snow blowers up and the lawnmower. This will be, I think, 58 inches wide.
okay. I don't have any other questions, and let's see if anybody else on the board has any questions. Anybody else on the board have any questions?
Just wondering, anybody in the neighborhood where this was discussed with, any objection from the neighbors?
Now, we're very careful with our neighbors. Behind the fence, it's pretty quiet. Over here is a parking space. Over here is a home, but that's not going to affect these people at all because we'll be back this way. We'll be on the north end of it.
Is this, I've been to the firehouse, is this down the hill?
Yes.
Okay, so
This is-
you can't see that actually from Bolton Road.
No, there's a road here, and just in this area here, it's about 15 foot. I'll tell you in a heartbeat what it is.
I know exactly where it is.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
are there any other members of the board that have any questions? Okay, Ben, I think you handled it nicely. I don't hear any other questions right now.
Question for the chairman. As a condition of approval, could we ask the fire department to resolve the incredibly embarrassing chain link fence just north of the property?
I don't believe that's before us tonight, but your point is noted that Mr. Gentile is not a fan of the chain link fence north of the property.
Which might be the electric companies anyway. I can't quite.
Right. That's not necessarily germane to tonight, but
She's no.
we take it under advisement. Mr. Daly, I think you answered all the questions that we have. Right now, I'm going to ask if there's any members of the public that wish to be heard for or against the application. Having not heard anybody, members of the public that wish to be heard for or against this application, Mr. Daly having made required disclosures under the municipal law, I think we're in a position to make a motion. Is there any members of the board that wish to make a motion relative to this application?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna make a motion. We approve this application. I think this will help our fire department, District 1, to be able to store the snow blower, the lawn mowers, and they'll be able to free up some more room in the fire department. I don't think this will cause any problem in the neighborhood. There was no, you can't even see the shed from any location, Bolton Road or in the back. It's pretty good and hidden in the back. It will not cause any undesirable change to the neighborhood at all. And the request, it might seem substantial, but again, it's not substantial because the way it sits in that unique property. It's a very unique property that they have the fire department on Bolton Road. For all these reasons, Mr. Chairman, I'm gonna approve and make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Lataif. A motion's been made. Is there a second to that motion?
Second the motion.
Mr. Gentile, notwithstanding his reservations relative to a chain link fence, has seconded the motion. Ms. Shakedi, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Lataif?
Yes.
Mr. Dolman?
I'm going to vote yes, and the chair will be shocked to hear that I do hold this to still be a substantial request, but on the balance, that yes, I would vote to approve.
Mr. Gentile?
Yes.
Mr. Antonikowski?
Yes.
And Chairperson Hoag?
Yes, for all the reasons stated. Your variance has been approved.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Bailey.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. I tell you, the fire, we need that desperately. And I want to thank everybody. Believe me.
Okay. I would like to point out that we have a special meeting coming up on Monday, correct?
Yes.
Next Monday. For those members that have indicated that they're going to be present next Monday, we already have a package that's been printed out for your review. I would encourage everybody to review it. It's a non-traditional type of matter that's coming before us in a more of an interpretive function as opposed to a variance application. They're calling upon us to interpret the code. And so you might want to take some time to review the materials that have been prepared and are between Laura and Linda up there. Okay.
Also, just so the board is aware, because we're doing things a little bit different with this particular case, we do have an attorney for the town that will present the town's.
Okay. I anticipated that somebody's going to be presenting. I thought that would be Laura, but you're going to have an attorney and who is the attorney? Mr. Hess going to present?
It will be
for
Mr. Hess.
Okay.
So I'll be here sitting up with the board. Mr. Hess will present the town's case and handle that portion of it. If you have like legal questions specific to your determination, I'll be here to answer those.
And with respect to that, this is the package, or will you, before we start, I think it'd probably be helpful for you to go over the scope of our review and what the standard, if there's a standard that we're to be exploring or implementing, assessing that would probably be helpful to start off with that.
Okay.
And then I envision, just so everybody knows, I would envision to let the appellant go first, and then Mr. Hess would be responding to that. That would be my intention.
I'm in.
Okay, so motion to adjourn this evening?
So moved.
All right, so, all in favor?
Aye.